Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. Today we are going to take a look at the World Boss and the best teams to deal significant damage in order to hit the reward goals. As you can see here, when you hit certain milestones, you'll get pretty significant rewards. So starting down here, you can see these are all the ones that I've already cleared. And these are the ones that I'm still working on. Right now, I hit 5 billion in damage, and I have a long way to go until I hit 8 billion. So I haven't really been trying for probably about a month. So we're going to take a look today and see what I can get those numbers up to. The real rewards, especially for endgame players, start at around 16 billion damage, which there are very, very few players that actually get to that. Most are going to be kind of where I'm about that 5 million mark, maybe 6 or 7 billion. But it all just depends on how old your server is and how long you've been playing. Taking a look here, you can see we have one player that is at 24 billion, which is max rewards. She is one of the top players in the entire game. So she has already hit almost all these rewards here. If you know anything about upgrading the new headquarters levels, you need a lot of oil, and that's going to give 500,000 here, 400,000 here, 300,000 here. So well over a million oil. All right, so let's go in and check out the teams that I have here. First of all, one of the key things I wanted to point out is it is not about power. So if you look at the power levels really don't have a ton to do with it. It's really about who you have on the team and how you're set up. So you can see here, I have about a 6 million power level difference between these two teams. But if I go back into my battle record, so I hit the boss last night, this is my tank heroes, which my air squad has all of my gear. It has the gorilla. So this is mostly level 40 gear. And then this is my air squad, which is at 36 or 39 million March. So 33 million, 39 million. As you can see, the team makeup is a big component of it, because for this boss, you have the bear, you have the tank bonuses. So I already have a pretty significant advantage for the tank squad, even with all the other buffs that my plane squad is getting. You can see there's a pretty significant difference between how those two did. So let's go ahead, put together the team, and we'll see how that does. So there's a couple different ways, and it all depends on who you have. So first of all, you'll want to leave the Stepman and Kim in the back row, and you can throw in Mason, and then you can either use Tesla, Swift, or Kim. It just depends on who your strongest are, and you can even play with that. Sometimes even another tank hero is better than Kim, or Diva. You can put Diva up front here. But it all just depends on the power levels and the star levels of those heroes. So it's hard to say exactly what would be best in your scenario, but this is probably a pretty generic setup. Another one would be this right here, depending on where your Murphy's at. So this would be a really good one because you're getting the additional boost for having 5 tank heroes. So you're going from 15 attack, which is, the other stuff doesn't matter. It's all about attack here. So you're going from 15% attack to 20% attack. And so if I take him off, put her in, you're dropping down to 15%. So when you're thinking about this, you have to think about, okay, is it worth losing that extra 5% for all my damage to add Diva here? Is she going to make up that 5% and more? So you're looking at getting a 10 to 15% at least damage boost by adding another hero here and losing out on that buff. So that's one thing to think about when you're putting these teams together. Who's going to be best in those makeups, and making sure you're trying to get those boosts as much as you can. If you can get all 5, great. If not, a lot of times people run with just the 15% because you only have 4 heroes because you throw in somebody else, because you really want to have damage dealers. You want to try to avoid using tanks as much as possible, just because they don't do a lot of damage unless you're extremely high level. And then other situations like Adam, where Adam here, he's going to give you the counter defense skill, which is going to do counter attacks for your front line. So he is one defensive hero where people use. But for the most part, this is kind of a basic lineup for tanks, for the tank world boss. And I can go ahead and I can throw on my Overlord here. And then one of the big things, which I wish they would fix this and make a remove all, but I'm going to take all my gear, just my attack gear off of my D.Va, put it on my Chem. Now I'm going to swap these all over here real quick. All right, so I got all of my attack gear on my attack heroes for my tank squad. So they are now ready to go. And I put on this 4-star gun on D.Va here. So we'll see how this lineup does. And one thing you'll want to remember is to always get your War Fever. So find a base anywhere and just get your War Fever. So I found this base. We'll go ahead and scout it. So now as you can see, I got my War Fever just for the additional boost. And then now let's go hit the world boss. So we'll go and make sure we got the right team here. We'll send this. All right, about to hit. And it should pop up here in a second. All right, so 6.9 billion. So yeah, that's obviously really good. Going in here, see the rankings, that puts me at 5th for right now. Looking at goals here, I'm about 1 billion short, which is kind of what I expected. I figured I would still be quite a ways off, and it's going to take some time because right now, and again, this is going to vary for everybody, depends on who you're leveling up. So for me, my air squad is my best squad. So if you look at my heroes, you'll see my air squad is all 165 except for Kim. I started leveling her up as well now that I'm at headquarters 33. Yeah, my air squad, they're definitely going to do the most damage. The other thing here that I did not mention earlier is you want to make sure that your drone, that you have the right skill chip preset. So mine, I have the tank one set to make sure I get all the tank boosts and everything, which makes a huge difference. You don't want to run your tank chips on your air squad on accident, because that's going to drop your power in your attack quite a bit. And again, it doesn't really matter too much about the power, but those boosts from the skill chips add up a lot. So looking at my tank here, my tank chips, you will see I have this up to level 5, which gives me an additional boost. So 9% plus 5.1% attack boost to tank heroes. And then that lasts for 3 seconds. And the drone bombing hits 3 more targets. So that does a significant amount of damage. And then this right here, you have the back row heroes get 13% plus 2.5%, so 15.5% damage increase. So those 2 skills right there give me a huge damage boost, especially for my tank heroes. So when you're running tanks, make sure you have your tank chips on if you do have those. And make sure your tanks are in the back row. Because 2 things, first of all, those chips boost the back row, but then also Mason's skill, if you look at it, it is to boost back row tank heroes damage versus monsters in battle. So if you don't have him in the back row, then you're losing out on all that additional damage. If I was, say, a couple million off from completing the world boss and hitting that 8 billion goal, I would probably level this skill up. I have enough skill medals. I would go ahead and just level this up a few times, just because that 0.5% or so could make a really big difference. Going over to my air squad here, I would probably use, if you do have them leveled up, using D.Va, Morrison, Schuler, and then swapping and maybe putting, whoops. This is one possible setup for air. So when you're fighting the air world boss, this is one really good setup, because you're going to have all your air squad in the back getting all the boosting each other. And then Marshall is there to give everybody an additional overall damage boost. Then, of course, Kim, if you have her leveled up and everything, she's going to be one of your strongest hitters in this lineup too. And again, this goes back to you're losing out on not having air heroes in there. So you're losing on the 20% boost. You're dropping down to 10. So then it comes the question is, okay, are you getting an additional 20 to 30% more damage by having the 2 tank heroes in this mix? Or you could throw in a hero like Sarah, if maybe that's going to help you get there, because now you're getting damage boost to back row aircraft heroes. So not only are you getting the 5% extra boost, but then you're also boosting that backline again with Sarah's ability. And then Kim's just going to be there to do additional damage. If you don't feel like your Kim is that strong, or you want to get that additional aircraft boost, you can always swap her out for maybe Carly, if you have her exclusive weapon, because she's going to do damage for you. She has some damage capabilities, so she's pretty good in the Kim slot in this lineup. So that there's a couple different scenarios here. Going back to this lineup, so you can use this for your air attack as well, your air world boss as well. So what you'll do, instead of giving your Kim your best weapon, is you can give it to D.Va. Say you don't have Morrison, you don't have Schuler really, go ahead and give D.Va your best weapon, give Kim your second best weapon, your best gear attack setups in that order. And this will do some pretty good damage for you, because you're getting Mason boosting Kim's damage in the back row. Stetman's just there to help out as well. And you're getting a 15% attack boost for having 4 of the same heroes in here in this lineup. So this is very good setup just for hitting air squad as well, or the air world boss as well. Okay, so moving on to missile. This is one of the potential lineups that people like to use, because you're going to have Adam here in the back. He's going to give you your counter attack abilities for your Tesla and your Swift up front. So they're going to do a ton of counter damage, and they're already going to get the damage boost for being missiles against the missile world boss anyways. So you're getting more of the damage that you want. So you want to go ahead and give Tesla and Swift your best weapons and your best attack gear in general. Depending on who's stronger, you can switch them to see which one is going to do better for you, and then give Kim and then maybe Stetman your next best weapons. Another alternative here, if your Stetman isn't doing very much damage, you can always swap them out for Marshall to give another overall damage boost for your team. But again, this is another one you can play around with and see what's going to be best for you. And then if you take these guys out here, you could either run a similar setup like you did with your tank team, where you're going to run Marshall up front, Mason, and then the other 2 tanks in the back, and then your missile squad, single missile squad in the bottom here. And it could either be a Swift or a Tesla, depending on who you have leveled up more and skills, and then they're also their exclusive weapons, because both of them have an exclusive weapon, so they're both viable options here. So this is another possible lineup for the missile team. And then if you have, say you don't have a heavy tank squad, you can come over to air and do a very similar setup, because your tank squads against them with missile world bosses are not going to do as much damage as they otherwise would. So if you're working on air, you're already at an advantage, because this is going to do more damage than would if you were to throw this in your tank squad and attack them with your tank heroes in the back. So this is another viable option if you have your air team leveled up. And again, you can play with this. You can have Tesla and Swift in here, take him out, and then put, you can either put Adam in here and put Adam in the back and have D.Va attacking. So that's another option. Or take Schuler out altogether and have Tesla in here. So this is another option. You can rotate these heroes around and see what's going to do best for you. But so this is more of an advanced setup, and if you're focused on air and your missile squads are okay, but not highly leveled up, this is another option for you. All right, guys, I know that there is a lot of possibilities, and I don't want to say there's one set way to exactly do the world boss, wrong or right. Just making sure that your teams are set up right, you have your buffs, you're getting some of the team buffs here. You don't want to have 4 different hero types, and then not get any buff. And you want to have some kind of synergy with your team. So building around synergy, using Mason effectively, using Marshall, which is the other support hero, using him effectively. He gives all team buffs to all different hero types, so it's not specific to a hero. Trying out things like Adam, making sure you're using the right drone chips in your attacks, getting your War Fever if you can, and making sure you're attacking the world boss with the right hero types. Don't attack the tank boss with missiles or with aircraft. You're not going to get the damage that you would if you were to use your tank heroes. So be mindful of that. And when you're setting up teams and you're looking at who's buffing what, make sure you read those descriptions. So you're not putting Mason and Kim in the front line, because then Mason's not buffing himself or Kim. You want to have Mason in the back line with Kim, because if you put Marshall back here, you're going to buff Marshall. But a lot of times, if you have your Mason leveled up, Mason's going to outdamage your Marshall here. He does very well against the world boss and compared to D.Va. So D.Va is at a disadvantage because she's aircraft. So she's only doing about 900, almost 950 million to 700 million done by Mason. Our D.Va has a 4-star weapon. Mason only has a level 40 weapon. So I don't know if that would make much of a difference swapping the two, but you can see here he's right behind her. So you want to have him in the back row, not Marshall. Well, I know there was, again, a lot there to unpack, and if you have any specific questions, let me know. And I hope you all find this information helpful. I know there's, again, no set way to do this. It all depends on the hero types you're working on, what your gear, what your drone, everything looks like. That's going to make an impact on what teams are going to do better. You're going to have some setups that do better, tanks versus aircraft or missile. You're going to have one or two of those are going to be lagging behind the others. So don't worry if all of them are not doing the best, because that's just going to happen because you can't level all of them up equally together. You'll want to have one strong team. And that's going to be typically the ones that are going to do better in the world boss first. So be mindful of that. Yeah, good luck, everybody. I hope this helps. And thanks again for watching.